See, Trump's rise coincides with De Niro's decline. And the person who knows it most is De Niro. He's a fine example of how not to turn loss into bitterness. There are plenty of people who don't like Trump, but don't let it warp their minds or their ability to speak aloud among grown-ups or The View. But the shifts in De Niro's of the world are emotionally damaged by politics to a point where they can't even assess their own emotions. Being an actor is tough. For how does one handle real life without a script? Not equipped to think analytically, you're left powerless when observing your own predictions about life turn out wrong. It's not supposed to be this way, De Niro thinks. Only the cool guys get to win. Sorry, Bob. That's only in the movies, but at least you'll always have...
Once hailed as a true giant of cinema, Robert De Niro has reinvented himself as Hollywood's most confusing political voice, lurching through rage-soaked rants like someone picking a fight in a comment section. Then Greg Gutfeld entered the room, composed, precise, and deadly, armed with dry humor and an iron grasp on reality. What followed wasn't a roast. It was a wrecking ball. Gutfeld didn't merely push back on De Niro's outrage. He exposed it. Blow by blow, he stripped away the tough guy facade, revealing something far more jarring. A living legend completely disconnected from the world he once commanded. This wasn't performance. This was a public unraveling, live, and utterly spectacular.
De Niro graced the knitting circle in hell known as The View, where he tried to link random thoughts into a sentence. Joy was there to wind him up, since he's played some of the most unredeemable characters.
You have played some of the most really unredeemable characters. Travis Bickle. Travis Bickle was a psychopathic taxi driver. Jake LaMotta, who used to beat his wife, and he was in The Raging Bull. Is Trump worse than they are?
To me, he is. He has no understanding that I can see of the outside world.
Robert De Niro, once an invincible force of filmmaking genius, has carved out a very different reputation. He's become Hollywood's most predictable source of public meltdowns. The man who radiated cold menace across mob film screens now roars like a foghorn caught in a political squall, unprompted, unfiltered, and blind to how far he's slipped. Just when sinking further into self-parody seemed impossible, Greg Gutfeld arrived and began dismantling what's left of De Niro's standing piece by piece, meltdown by meltdown.
De Niro kind of represents Hollywood in the sense that they realize that they're losing influence with the public, and that's what's generating the emotional response. They've never felt less important.
It just doesn't feel like 2016 again. Like we lived through that. Did they forget?
Yeah.
It also feels like they forgot that. And remember, just this week we had Kamala Harris dropping the F-bomb at a group.
If you're enjoying this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe. More moments like this are coming. No red carpet, no grand entrance, just Gutfeld. One arched eyebrow, one knowing smirk, lobbing verbal grenades at a man who turned shouting into his entire identity. The dismantling didn't begin with fury. It began with something far more devastating. Surgical precision. Like a doctor diagnosing a catastrophically inflated ego with terminal self-delusion.
Robert De Niro's 29-year-old child, Aaron, has come out as transgender. When the press asked her for comment, she said, "You talking to they, them?" Last night, an elderly, confused man went missing in New York. Luckily, a band of self-satisfied elitists found him babbling on the street, threw some pants on him, gave him a stage.
And honestly, it isn't even difficult because De Niro has made himself the most obvious target imaginable. He's become a walking caricature, a grumpy monument who refuses to leave the stage, gasping through every press appearance like he's auditioning for Angriest Man Alive in a sequel nobody approved. The same man whose performances once shook audiences now delivers tirades that merely rattle coffee cups.
Really worry that if he were to win again, and I'm not saying this like it's such a far-fetched notion, if he were to win again, that he would not give up power?
You know he won't. You know he won't. He even said it. He's never going to give it up. And anybody who deludes themselves in thinking that he is.
Gutfeld doesn't need to invent anything. He simply watches, and De Niro handles the rest. Subtlety gone. Where there were once layers, depth, and quiet intensity, there is now just noise. Loud, aimless, finger-pointing noise. Desperately filling the void left behind by talent that packed its bags somewhere around Dirty Grandpa.
Trump.
Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture. And the clenched fists at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute. It's like he found out the restaurant serves Jell-O, or that he won a $10 scratch off.
And no, that wasn't a joke. That was a real film, a real performance, a genuinely painful moment in cinema history. The man who breathed life into Travis Bickle and Jake LaMotta concluded that playing a sleazy geriatric buffoon was the logical next chapter of his legacy. Gutfeld doesn't need to stretch the truth. De Niro is essentially roasting himself. His film choices over the last decade read like a frantic scramble to stay visible in a world that moved on without him. A resume that once radiated prestige now doubles as a masterclass in demolishing your own legacy. The new De Niro treats Twitter as political strategy and fury as a virtue. He crashes into TV panels convinced that yelling louder strengthens his argument. Logic fed into a wood chipper. Gutfeld doesn't attack the art. He grieves its loss. He watches De Niro stomp around like King Lear in a bathrobe, convinced the world still awaits his cue. He simply watches De Niro stumble over his own ego and notes that the emperor has no clothes and is also screaming at the tailor.
Star of Dirty Grandpa, Robert De Niro, getting censored by The View after raging like a bull who saw a red MAGA hat.
And they might think that it's going to make their life better, or they just want to, excuse my French, literally, it's almost like he wants to do the worst that he could possibly do to show this country.
What's more painful? De Niro raging against the machine or the machine calmly firing back like this is all routine. Every political eruption lands like a failed audition. Passionate, absolutely. Coherent, not even close. He delivers each line with desperate urgency, convinced the world is ablaze. Except the fire exists only in his head. Gutfeld doesn't even mock the content. The delivery alone says enough. De Niro's fury arrives with hand gestures, bulging neck veins, and that trademark glare that once signaled genuine menace but now resembles a broken Halloween decoration. Silence frightens him, so he fills every pause with noise, accusations, and proclamations, treating every microphone like a confessional booth minus the remorse.
Understanding that I can see of the outside world other than anything around him. He has no idea of what his purpose in life is, as the president should be, and that is to pull the country together, to be for the people, to heal wounds, not to open them up and pour salt on them.
De Niro clearly has thought about this, more so than his career. His choice of roles is now down to cinnamon and lobster. He was then asked about the Trump kids. At least he doesn't want my kids to take this the wrong way.
Gutfeld targets De Niro because he refuses to stop pretending he's still delivering Oscar-worthy monologues. In reality, he's one bad metaphor away from a daytime drama called As the Ego Turns. People aren't hanging on his every word. They're just watching, flinching, bracing for the next eruption. De Niro enters interviews like a human weather alert. Even loyal fans no longer know what to do with him. They used to quote his films. Now they quote his interviews, not because they're insightful, but because they sound like Mad Libs completed during road rage. His sentences are maps to nowhere, built entirely from bitterness and cable news talking points. Feld simply holds up the mirror. In that mirror stands a former titan, now an echo chamber of his own frustration. What was once gravitas is now just gravity dragging everything down. Every platform becomes his final stage. It's not a movie anymore. It's a reality show nobody signed up for.
And they don't like most of the Trump voters because they are Americans. And De Niro, how stupid is he without a script? Isn't that amazing? I used to think, wow, that guy's brilliant. But once you take the words away from him, he is so stupid. Then when he says, impeachment will make America great again, and everybody's, how intellectually deprived he is. He's a coke-addled.
Gutfeld doesn't just highlight the absurdity. He savors it, because it's entertaining the way a slow-motion disaster is entertaining. Horrifying, unavoidable, impossible to ignore. Even De Niro's expressions are stuck on a loop. That iconic squint once signaled dangerous thought. Now it signals he's lost track of his own argument. The head tilt, once pure cinematic menace, is now muscle memory triggered by caffeine and confusion. He could have walked away. He could have become an untouchable legend. Instead, he bought a season pass to the circus, climbed into the clown car, and began honking like his relevance depended on it. Because without the chaos, what remains? De Niro's fall isn't just a cautionary tale. It's a masterclass in screaming at evolution to slow down. He is not a casualty of the times. He is a willing participant.
De Niro thinks only the cool guys get to win. Sorry, Bob. That's only in the movies, but at least you'll always have joy. You know, when dislike is so emotional, Katie, I always think it means something else. Like he's actually thought about this. Like, you know, he's like, it's in his head. And I can't help but think it's because they're of similar age and they're both New Yorkers.
In the end, he'll probably receive another award, another ovation, not for anything recent, but for the ghost of the man who once made cinema shake. He'll take the stage, squinting into the audience, delivering a speech nobody follows, but everyone pretends to love. But the truth has been spoken. Gutfeld said what everyone was quietly thinking. The legend is finished. The roast is real. De Niro is now delivering his most convincing role yet. The furious man who mistook volume for virtue. And this show is far from over. Gutfeld wasn't finished because with someone so drenched in self-importance, how could he be? De Niro didn't stumble into this roast. He laid the red carpet himself, slipped on a tuxedo of delusion, and requested the spotlight like it was awards season.
Take this the wrong way, but if my kids did what these kids did, I wouldn't want to be related to them. I would disown them.
Whoa, this is sad. Here you have someone pretending to be a tough guy, turn out to be just a second banana for Joy Behar, the poster child for Trump derangement. Sadly, Bob is now just another gibbering, enfeebled ninny, surrounded by inept relatives as he frets about how Trump's in power. And
Gutfeld kept swinging as though the Oscars introduced a new category, Best Performance in Self-Destruction. The man revered for crime classics now looked like he was auditioning for the collapse of common sense. A towering figure who once owned the silver screen now postures like a Hollywood prophet with the depth of a damp paper towel. That recent press tour, De Niro stumbling through statements like reading fortune cookies through bifocals. Gutfeld leapt at the opening. Here is a man who played Vito Corleone yet cannot survive a 5-minute interview without turning the microphone into a therapy session. He doesn't answer questions. He monologues at them like performing Shakespeare in a parking garage. De Niro has become an accidental performance artist, rebranding his legendary scowl into a permanent personality, always acting like he's auditioning for sainthood every time he opens his mouth.
you know, when the other team, let's say your team, grabs clips of, say, from The Five or Sean Hannity or Jesse's show, they could say we're wrong, but they can't say they're acting crazy. Like, we have fun. But why is it on the other side, let's say the MSNBC, the CNN, the View side, when they actually appear like they have psychological issues, that this stuff is so ingrained, this Trump derangement, that they are mentally ill? That's De Niro clearly is having problems. His therapist is getting paid a lot.
But the real defining moment, De Niro's crusade against anyone who thinks differently. He appointed himself society's watchdog, self-declared guardian of moral standards, card-carrying member of the out-of-touch elite. Gutfeld carved into that hypocrisy without hesitation. Man who played blue-collar tough guys now occupies a penthouse of pure pretension, gazing down like he's narrating why I'm simply superior. Gutfeld didn't need to manufacture punchlines. De Niro served them up like appetizers at a retirement party for relevance. He rehearses tough guy lines from 1976 wearing a robe that costs more than most people's salary. The crowd has thinned, but De Niro remains convinced he's the center of a universe that stopped revolving around him long ago. One thing is undeniably clear. This roast is nowhere near finished. Hit like and subscribe for more straight talk.